Hi. Cool, cool. We're live. Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Joan, and I've been an online ESL teacher for about 5 years. So I spend all day talking to students, helping them learn English. And well, right now we are all stuck inside because of COVID-19. And I thought it would be a really good idea to start a book club. I don't read enough books. Most people don't read enough books anymore. And I thought this would be a good way to practice some English and get myself to read too. I need to read too. So I'm a little bit nervous. This is my first time doing a live class. Normally I talk to students, but the goal is for me to teach this just like a lesson where I provide some feedback about the English vocabulary used, the phrasal verbs, the slangs, and just help you feel more comfortable reading this book. Um, so if you have any questions, you can comment right away. Otherwise, I'll be typing vocabulary. And if you're watching this video later, not live, then go ahead and write some questions and I'll address them in the next videos. Cool. So the book I chose is Emma by Jane Austen because I have never read Jane Austen before and I feel so guilty that I haven't done it yet. Also, the movie Emma is coming out really soon and I really want to see it. So my goal is we'll read one chapter today, read chapter 2 tomorrow, and keep going. And hopefully at the end, we can all watch the movie together. I don't know how that legally works, but we will try. The other reason I chose the book Emma is because it is free. It's in the public domain. So everything that was written before 1930 something is free online or in stores. Well, you have to pay if you buy it in a store. And we can go ahead and download it. So I got mine from the Apple bookstore, and it was the first one in Apple. And the cover is black and white with a picture of Emma, I guess. So, and I will post some publisher information to make sure that you can get the same copy as me. And if you are shopping in the Android bookstore or Huawei bookstore, I don't know how it works, but go ahead and comment with this book so that I can share it and we can all be on the same page. Alrighty. Ooh, it's so exciting. I've never read an ebook before. I feel so futuristic. Hopefully I'll get a paper book later, but quarantine, can't really do that right now. Cool, cool. So let's read Emma. Chapter 1. Ooh. I'm so nervous. This is going to be so fun. I can't wait until like chapter 5 when I feel comfortable. Chapter 1. Emma Woodhouse, handsome, clever, and rich, with a comfortable home and happy disposition, seemed to unite some of the best blessings of existence, and had lived nearly 21 years in the world with very little to distress or vex her. Some vocabulary here. They call Emma handsome. Handsome is typically used for men nowadays, but because this book was written a long time ago, it was used for women back then. So we could say Emma is very beautiful. So she's beautiful, clever, rich. In the world with very little to distress or vex her. Distress means to bother, stress her out, and vex, same meaning. So very little to trouble her. She was the youngest of the 2 daughters of a most affectionate, indulgent father. Indulgent meaning he gives her everything she wants. And had, in consequence of her sister's marriage, been mistress of his house from a very early period. The word mistress here means like the boss lady of the house. She's the woman of the house. Mistress sometimes means the woman the man is cheating on with, shouts on. Here it means the leader of the house. So she had been mistress of his house from a very early period. Her mother had died too long ago for her to have more than an indistinct remembrance of her caresses, and her place had been supplied by an excellent woman as governess, who had fallen little short of a mother in affection. Governess is an older word for it's kind of like a nanny. It's a governess is a woman who takes care of the children, but she also educates them. She's like a teacher nanny. It sounds like this governess was almost like her mother. 16 years had Miss Taylor been in Mr. Woodhouse's family, less as a governess than a friend, very fond of both daughters, but particularly of Emma. Between them, it was more the intimacy of sisters. Close, like sisters. Even before Miss Taylor had ceased to hold the nominal office of governess, the mildness of her temper had hardly allowed her to impose any restraint. And the shadow of authority being now long passed away, they had been living together as friend and friend, very mutually attached, and Emma doing just what she liked, highly esteeming Miss Taylor's judgment, but directed chiefly by her own. Directed chiefly by her own judgment, so that means she is making her own choices. So Miss Taylor is the boss, but Emma and Miss Taylor are really best friends or sisters. The real evils, indeed, of Emma's situation were the power of having rather too much in her own way and a disposition to think a little too well of herself. Disposition is like your character. My disposition is very cheery and happy. Some people have a sad disposition. Emma seems to have a disposition to think a little too well of herself. I'm so beautiful. I'm so good. She might be a little bit arrogant. These were the disadvantages which threatened alloy to her many enjoyments. To be honest, this word alloy, I've never used it. I don't know it. So it sounds like her arrogance threatens her enjoyment of life. The danger, however, was at present so unperceived that they did not by any means rank as misfortunes with her. So she's too arrogant. She thinks too much of herself, but she hasn't really noticed yet. Sorrow came, a gentle sorrow, sadness, but not at all in the shape of any disagreeable consciousness. Miss Taylor married. Okay, so nothing bad happened to Emma, no disagreeable consciousness. Oh, this is such old English. Miss Taylor got married. Oh no. It was Miss Taylor's loss which first brought grief. It was on the wedding day of this beloved friend that Emma first sat in mournful thought of any continuance. Mournful is like sad. When someone dies, we feel mournful. So Emma is at Miss Taylor's wedding, feeling like she's losing her friend. The same as if her friend were dying, her friend is leaving. The wedding over and the bride people gone, her father and herself were left to dine together with no prospect of a third to cheer a long evening. No prospect, no hope for a third person to arrive. No prospect means no option, no chance. So just Emma and Dad. Her father composed himself to sleep after dinner, as usual, and she had then only to sit and think of what she had lost. The event had every promise of happiness for her friend. Mr. Weston was a man of unexceptional character, easy fortune, suitable age, and pleasant manners. And there was some satisfaction in considering with what self denying, generous friendship she had always wished and promoted the match. But it was a black morning's work for her. This is a very long sentence. Self denying, generous friendship. So Emma had tried to get Miss Taylor married. She wanted Miss Taylor to be happy and be married, but it's sad for her. This is so fun that I'm reading the book for the first time with you guys. I love it. The want of Miss Taylor. Here, when we say the want of, it's like Emma is wanting Miss Taylor. This is very poetic English. We won't say this very often, but I could say like for the want of money or the want of coffee. Good, good. The want of Miss Teen years. How she had taught, how she had played with her from 5 years old, how she had devoted all her powers to attach and amuse her in health, and how nursed her through the various illnesses of childhood. A large debt of gratitude was owing here, but the intercourse of the last 7 years, the equal footing, and perfect unreserve, which soon followed Isabella's marriage, on their being left to each other was yet a dearer, tenderer recollection. Another super long sentence. Woo-hoo, we're in for a really hard book. I love it. So, first, I want to talk about the word intercourse. Intercourse is used a lot in English books, in English literature, just anything from like 100 years ago or more. Intercourse meant conversation. Oh my God, somebody just joined the live stream right now, and this is so embarrassing because today the word intercourse usually means sex, like sexual intercourse, actually. Back then it meant conversation. So I guess we can think of the word now like a sexual conversation. So a very long sentence. On their being left to each other was yet a dearer, tender recollection. So now that Miss Taylor is gone, Emma feels even more like she loves her. She misses her even more. She had been a friend and companion such as few possessed. Intelligent, well-informed, useful, gentle, knowing all the ways of the family, interested in all its concerns, and particularly interested in herself, in every pleasure, every scheme of hers. Every scheme, every idea. Miss Taylor was interested in Emma. One to whom she could speak every thought as it arose, every thought as it arose, who had such an affection for her as could never find fault. Again, Miss Taylor really loved Emma. She was a really good friend and governess. How was she to bear the change? It was true that her friend was going only half a mile from them, but Emma was aware that great must be the difference between a Mrs. Weston only half a mile from them and a Miss Taylor in the house. And with all her advantages, natural and domestic, she was now in great danger of suffering from intellectual solitude. Intellectual solitude. Being alone from other intelligent people. Oh my God, that's our life right now in quarantine. She dearly loved her father, but he was no companion for her. He could not meet her in conversation, rational or playful. Her father is not very interesting to talk to. The evil of the actual disparity in their ages, and Mr. Woodhouse had not married early, was much increased by his constitution and habits. All right. So the disparity in their ages means the difference. So Mr. Woodhouse had not married early. That means he didn't marry when he was 20. So Emma's 21. He's not like a 40-year-old dad. He's probably a 60-year-old dad. Maybe we'll find out his age later. So was much increased by his constitution and habits. Constitution, his health, and his habits. So someone with bad constitution is weak, maybe coughing. For having been a word I don't know, valetudinarian all his life. It's just a fun way to show I don't know every word in English. Valetudinarian all his life. I think it's someone who likes valor without activity of mind or body. Yes, he likes to think but not do a lot of exercise. He was a much older man in ways than in years. And though everywhere beloved for the friendliness of his heart and his amiable temper, he's a good, nice guy. His talents could not have recommended him at any time. Okay. So it sounds like he's a really nice guy, but he's kind of lazy. Her sister, though comparatively but little removed by matrimony, being settled in London, only 16 miles off, was much beyond her daily reach, and many a long October and November evening must be struggled through at Hartfield before Christmas brought the next visit from Isabella and her husband and their little children to fill the house and give her pleasant society again. So Emma is alone in this house. I literally didn't know that when I picked this as the book to read during quarantine. So I hope it gets a little better. Highbury, the large and populous village, almost amounting to a town. So village, town, city. Maybe a village has like 100 people. Almost amounting to a town, to which Hartfield, in spite of its separate lawn and shrubberies and name, did really belong, afforded her no equals. Gave her no equals. Meaning there is no one in the village who is as smart as Emma, as beautiful as Emma, or as ambitious, maybe. No one's good enough for her. The Woodhouses were first in consequence there. All looked up to them. She had many acquaintance in the place, for her father was universally civil. But not one of them could be accepted in lieu of Miss Taylor for even half a day. So she has many acquaintances, people she knows, but not any friends. It was a melancholy change, and Emma could not but sigh over it and wish for impossible things till her father awoke and made it necessary to be cheerful. So she's sad all day. Then her father wakes up. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Mm-hmm. His spirits required support. He was a nervous man, easily depressed, fond of everybody that he was used to, and hating to part with them. Hating change of every kind. Okay, so he hates change. He wants to stay with the people he knows. Matrimony, as the origin of change, was always disagreeable, and he was by no means yet reconciled to his own daughter's marrying, nor could ever speak of her but with compassion, though it had been entirely a match of affection when he was now obliged to part with Miss Taylor too, and form his habits of gentle selfishness. And from his habits of gentle selfishness. Whew, long sentences again. And of being never able to suppose that other people could feel differently from himself. He was very much disposed to think Miss Taylor had done as sad a thing for herself as them, and would have been a great deal happier if she had spent the rest of her life at Hartfield. So just like Emma, her dad hates marriage because it brings change. It makes people move away. It made me move away. When I got married, I moved to a new state, a new city. I bet my mom felt this way. So they're both really sad. Poor Miss Taylor. I wish she were here again. What a pity it is that Mr. Weston ever thought of her. I cannot agree with you, Papa. You know I cannot. Mr. Weston is such a good-humored, pleasant, excellent man that he thoroughly deserves a good wife. And you would not have had Miss Taylor live with us forever and bear all my odd humors when she might have a house of her own. Odd humors. You'll hear the word humors a lot in this book. Humors is like mood. So don't use the word humors in daily life. This is Old English. Sorry, really thirsty. But so she had some bad moods, odd humors. A house of her own? But where is the advantage of a house of her own? This is 3 times as large. And you have never any odd humors, my dear. How often we shall be going to see them, and they coming to see us. We shall be always meeting. We must begin. We must go and pay a wedding visit very soon. So we'll see them a lot. Yeah. My dear, how am I to get so far? Randall's is such a distance. I could not walk half so far. All right. I think Miss Taylor moved a half a mile away. That takes me about 7 minutes to walk. So I don't know if the roads are worse then, but half a mile is a long distance back then. No, Papa, nobody thought of your walking. We must go in the carriage, to be sure. Good plan. The carriage? But James will not like to put the horses to for such a little way. And where are the poor horses to be while we are paying our visit? Okay. This English is a little weird. James will not like to put the horses to. Oh, boy. Well, that's the problem with going live. I can't edit that out. So this just means James doesn't want to put the horses in all of their horse stuff just to go a little while. Sounds like me. I don't want to start the car just to go a half a mile. Okay, where are the poor horses to be while we are paying our visit? They are to be put into Mr. Weston's stable, Papa. You know we have settled all that already. We talked it all over with Mr. Weston last night. And as for James, you may be very sure he will always like going to Randall's because of his daughter's being a housemaid there. Ooh. I only doubt whether he will ever take us anywhere else. That was your doing, Papa. You got Hannah that good place. Nobody thought of Hannah until you mentioned her. James is so obliged to you. Obliged. James is so grateful to you. He owes you this. So it sounds like Emma's dad got their driver's daughter a job there. Well, this all sounds perfect. I don't know why her dad is worried about it. I am very glad I did think of her. It was very lucky, for I would not have had poor James think himself slighted upon any account. And I am sure she will make a very good servant. She is civil, she is a civil, pretty spoken girl. I have a great opinion of her. Whenever I see her, she always curtsies. Curtsies is that, well, I guess I would have to stand up where they kind of bow. She always curtsies and asks me how I do in a very pretty manner. And when you have had her here to do needlework, I observe she always turns the lock of the door the right way and never bangs it. So when she comes over to hang out with Emma, she closes the door quietly. I guess that mattered to him. I am sure she will be an excellent servant, and it will be a great comfort to poor Miss Taylor to have somebody about her that she is used to see. Whenever James goes over to see his daughter, she will be hearing of us. He will be able to tell her how we all are. Good. Emma spared no exertions, no effort, no strength. So Emma spared no means she put in a lot of effort. She didn't hold back. She didn't spare the effort. Emma spared no exertions to maintain this happier flow of ideas and hoped by the help of backgammon, is that a game in China? I don't know. With the help of backgammon to get her father tolerably through the evening and be attacked by no regrets but her own. The backgammon table was placed, but a visitor immediately afterwards walked in and made it unnecessary. So Emma had set up backgammon, like poker, a game. And right after she set it up, somebody visited. So yay, I don't have to play cards with my dad. God, that sounds so boring. If I had to live in a house with just my dad, that'd be so boring. Mr. Knightley, a sensible man about 7 or 8 and 30. He's 37 or 38. This is just a weird old way to say it. About 37 or 38, was not only a very old and intimate friend of the family, close friend of the family, but particularly connected with it as the elder brother of Isabella's husband. So she is Emma's brother-in-law's brother. Yay, English is hard. Emma's sister's husband's brother. He lived about a mile from Highbury, was a frequent visitor, and always welcome. And at this time, more welcome than usual, as coming directly from their mutual connections in London. Ooh, gossip? He'll have some news. He had returned to a late dinner after some days' absence, and now walked up to Hartfield to say that all were well in Brunswick Square. It was a happy circumstance and animated Mr. Woodhouse for some time. So they just got good news. Everyone's doing good in London. Brunswick Square must be a place in London. Mr. Knightley had a cheerful manner, which always did him good, and his many inquiries after poor Isabella and her children were answered most satisfactorily. Oof. So all his questions were answered well. He's worried about his daughter, Isabella. When this was over, Mr. Woodhouse gratefully observed, "It is very kind of you, Mr. Knightley, to come out at this late hour to call upon us. I am afraid you must have had a shocking walk." Shocking is like, ah, not sure why this walk was shocking. Hmm. Not at all, sir. It is a beautiful moonlit night and so mild that I must draw back from your great fire. Draw back means to move back. So they have a fire. It's nice and warm. But Mr. Knightley is saying it's too warm. I'm going to move away from the fire. Turn down the heat. Uh, okay, so it sounds like Mr. Woodhouse is very negative. Oh, God, he sounds like my dad. Ooh. But you must have found it very damp and dirty. I wish you may not catch a cold. Drink some hot water. Dirty, sir. Look at my shoes. Not a speck on them. Not a speck of dirt. Speck is just a little bit. Well, that is quite surprising, for we have had a vast deal of rain here. It rained dreadfully hard for half an hour while we were at breakfast. I wanted them to put off the wedding. By the by, I have not wished you joy, being pretty well aware of what sort of joy you must both be feeling. I have been in no hurry with my congratulations, but I hope it all went off tolerably well. How did you all behave? Who cried the most? Who cried the most at Miss Taylor's wedding? The way that he speaks is also quite old fashioned to say, uh, I have been in no hurry with my congratulations. Today we would say, oh, I forgot to congratulate you. Your governess got married this morning. How was it? Oh my God, did you cry? Who cried the most, you or Emma? Ah, poor Miss Taylor. 'Tis a sad business. Poor Mr. and Miss Woodhouse, if you please, but I cannot possibly say poor Miss Taylor. I have a great regard for you and Emma, but when it comes to the question of dependence or independence, at any rate, it must be better to have only one to please than two. It must be better to have only one person to take care of, to make happy, than to have two people. So here, Mr. Woodhouse has sort of lost someone. He has to, well, he doesn't have to pay her anymore. No one's talking about this. He's saving lots of money, but he doesn't have to make her happy. So basically, this guy is saying, like, you should be happy for people who get married. I think marriage is so good. I don't know why this guy's complaining. Okay. Especially when one of those two is such a fanciful, troublesome creature, said Emma playfully. That is what you have in your head, I know, and what you would certainly say if my father were not by. Fanciful, troublesome creature. She's saying she is so difficult. She's so hard to deal with. Fanciful is like dreamy and thinking of other things, thinking of fancy things. I believe it is very true, my dear, indeed, said Mr. Woodhouse with a sigh. I am afraid I am sometimes very fanciful and troublesome. My dearest papa, you do not think I could mean you, or suppose Mr. Knightley to mean you. What a horrible idea. Oh no, I meant only myself. Mr. Knightley loves to find fault with me, you know. In a joke, it is all a joke. We always say what we like to one another. Man, jokes are never funny if you have to explain why they are funny. But Emma had to explain her joke to her dad. We can see he's not a very funny guy. Ugh. Mr. Knightley, in fact, was one of the few people who could see faults in Emma Woodhouse. and the only one who ever told her of them, and thought this was not particularly agreeable to Emma herself. Oh, and though this was not particularly agreeable means Emma didn't like it. If it was not agreeable, she didn't like it. She didn't agree with it. She knew it would be so much less so to her father that she would not have him really suspect such a circumstance as her not being thought perfect by everybody. Her dad thinks she is perfect, and it would hurt him to find out someone thinks she isn't perfect. Hmm. Emma knows I never flatter her, said Mr. Knightley. Flatter. Um, the word flatter means to say good things. You're so pretty. You're so nice. You're really smart. Emma knows I never flatter her, said Mr. Knightley, but I meant no reflection on anybody. Miss Taylor has been used to have sorry. Miss Taylor has been used to have two persons to please. She will now have but one. The chances are that she will be a gainer, a winner. Okay, she doesn't have to take care of Mr. Woodhouse and Emma. She just has to take care of her new husband. Yeah, husbands are easy. But I'd rather take care of my husband than my dad. Well, said Emma, willing to let it pass. You want to hear about the wedding, and I shall be happy to tell you, for we all behaved charmingly. Everybody was punctual, everybody in their best looks, not a tear, and hardly a long face to be seen. Long face, frown. Oh no, we all felt that we were going to be only half a mile apart and were sure of meeting every day. Dear Emma bears everything so well, said her father. But Mr. Knightley, she is really very sorry to lose poor Miss Taylor. And I am sure she will miss her more than she thinks for. Mhm. She's going to miss her more than she realizes. Emma turned away her head, divided between tears and smiles. It is impossible that Emma should not miss such a companion. So here we're using a double negative in a very formal, poetic way. It is impossible for her to not miss. Try not to use double negatives in English because it's just confusing. But they did use them a lot in England in older times. It is impossible that Emma should not miss such a companion, said Mr. Knightley. We should not like her to do we should not like her so well as we do, sir, if we could not suppose it. But she knows how much the marriage is to Miss Taylor's advantage. So she knows how good this marriage is for Miss Taylor. She knows how very acceptable it must be at Miss Taylor's time of life to be settled in a home of her own, and how important to her to be secure of a comfortable provision. Comfortable provision means like provision is from provide, so her husband will provide for her. Comfortable money. Just she's going to be maybe not rich, but she's going to be comfortable. And therefore cannot allow herself to feel so much pain as pleasure. Every friend of Miss Taylor must be glad to have her so happily married. And you have forgotten one matter of joy to me, said Emma, and a very considerable one, very big, good thing for me. That I made the match myself. I made the match, 4 years ago. and to have it take place and be proved in the right when so many people said Mr. Weston would never marry again. That may comfort me for anything. Mr. Knightley shook his head at her. Her father fondly repeated, "Ah, my dear, I wish you would not make matches and foretell things, for whatever you say always comes to pass. Pray do not make any more matches." Pray is this, please, 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 God. But here we can say pray to another person like, please. So please do not make any more matches. Please don't set anyone up on a date or get people married. All right, I see where this is going. I promise you to make none for myself, Papa, but I must, indeed, for other people. It is the greatest amusement in the world. And after such success, everybody said that Mr. Weston would never marry again. Oh dear, no, Mr. Weston, who had been a widower so long. A widower is someone whose wife died. A woman would be called a widow. So Emma's making matches. Oh, your wife's dead? Don't worry, I'll find you someone. And who seemed so perfectly comfortable without a wife, so constantly occupied either in his business in town or among his friends there, always acceptable wherever he went, always cheerful. Mr. Weston need not spend a single evening in the year alone if he did not like it. Oh no, Mr. Weston certainly would never marry again. This is what everyone said. They said he will never get married. This is impossible. Okay. Some people even talked of a promise to his wife on her deathbed, and others of the son and the uncle not letting him. So it sounds like so we would say on her deathbed is when she is dying. Maybe she said, please don't get married again. Don't replace me. All manner of solemn nonsense was talked on the subject. Solemn is serious, like sad things. Nonsense is things that aren't true. So all manner of nonsense, all manner of gossip. Ooh, will he get married again? Why isn't he getting married? Did he kill his wife? That's just me. All manner of solemn nonsense was talked on the subject, but I believed none of it. Ever since the day, about 4 years ago, that Miss Taylor and I met with him in Broadway Lane, when, because it began to drizzle, he darted away with so much gallantry and borrowed 2 umbrellas for us from Farmer Mitchell's. Darted away is like to run really fast. So it sounds like it started raining. He ran away with so much gallantry. Gallantry is like, I'm a good man. I'm a gentleman. My husband has a lot of gallantry. So much gallantry and borrowed 2 umbrellas. What a gentleman. From Farmer Mitchell's. I made up my mind on the subject. She said, wow, what a gentleman. I will find him a wife. I planned the match from that hour, and when such success had blessed me in this instance, dear Papa, you cannot think that I shall leave off matchmaking. Leave off. Quit. Stop matchmaking. I do not understand what you mean by success, said Mr. Knightley. Success supposes endeavor. Success means that you worked hard. Your time has been properly and delicately spent. If you have been endeavoring, working hard, for the last 4 years to bring about this marriage, a worthy employment for a young lady's mind. But if, which I rather imagine, you're making the match, as you call it, means only you're planning it, saying to yourself one idle day, I think it would be a very good thing for Miss Taylor if Mr. Weston were to marry her. And saying it again to yourself every now and then afterwards. Why do you talk of success? Where is your merit? Where is your proof or your badge of merit? Like, I did this. What are you proud of? You made a lucky guess, and that is all that can be said. So he's saying, Emma, you didn't do this. You just thought they would be good together. You didn't make this match happen. She says, and have you never known the pleasure and triumph of a lucky guess? I pity you. I thought you cleverer. I thought you were smarter. For depend upon it, a lucky guess is never merely luck. There is always some talent in it. And as to my poor word success, which you quarrel with, which you disagree with, I do not know that I am so entirely without any claim to it. You have drawn two pretty pictures, but I think there may be a third, a something between the do nothing and the do all. If I had not promoted Mr. Weston's visits here and given many little encouragements, so many little encouragements like, oh, Mr. Weston, you like books? Miss Taylor likes books too. Oh, you guys could read together. That's how I imagine like everyone in the past. So she's giving them little encouragements and smoothed over many little manners. Like, I don't know what she had to smooth over. If there was some problem, she could fix it. It might not have come to anything after all. I think you must know Hartfield enough to comprehend that. You must know this city, this village, enough to understand that. A straightforward, open-hearted man like Weston and a rational, unaffected woman like Miss Taylor may be safely left to manage their own concerns. You are more likely to have done harm to yourself than good to them by interference. So he's saying that Mr. Weston and Miss Taylor would be fine. They can figure it out themselves. And Emma's troubling herself by doing all this work. Emma thinks of herself, Emma never thinks of herself if she can do good to others, rejoined Mr. Woodhouse, understanding but in part. But, my dear, pray do not make any more matches. They are silly things and break up one's family circle grievously, seriously, badly. So what her father says is, please don't make any more matches. Please don't set anyone up because it will break up their family like it broke up ours by taking Miss Taylor. Only one more, Papa. Only for Mr. Elton. Poor Mr. Elton. You like Mr. Elton, Papa. I must look about for a wife for him. There is nobody in Highbury who deserves him, and he has been here a whole year and has fitted up his house so comfortably that it would be a shame to have him single any longer. And I thought when he was joining their hands today, he looked so very much as if he would like to have the same kind of office done for him. Let's review this. So Mr. Elton, um, he has been here for a whole year. He's lived in this city, lived in this village for a whole year and hasn't found a wife. So, and when he was joining their hands, sounds like he might be the person who married them, who put the rings on. He looked very jealous. He looked like, oh, I wish I could be married. Or at least Emma thought that. All right. Oh, it's the last page. Yay. I think very well of Mr. Elton, and this is the only way I have of doing him a service. Hmm. Mr. Elton is a very pretty young man, to be sure, and a very good young man, and I have great regard for him, great respect for him. But if you want to shew him any attention, I don't know this word, shew. If you want to give him any attention, my dear, ask him to come and dine with us some day. That will be a much better thing. I dare say Mr. Knightley will be so kind as to meet him. Come here and have dinner. So we're not just inviting Mr. Elton to dinner, we're also inviting you, Mr. Knightley. With a great deal of pleasure, sir, at any time, said Mr. Knightley, laughing. And I agree with you entirely that it will be a much better thing. Invite him to dinner, Emma, and help him to the best of the fish and chicken, but leave him to choose his own wife. Depend upon it, a man of 6 or 7 and 20, a man of 26, 27 years old, can take care of himself. Huh. I don't know if a 26-year-old man can take care of himself. All right, that's the end of chapter 1. Wow. Cool. Thank you for hanging out with me. I know there are a few people joined in the live chat today or in the live stream today. So thank you so much for being here. This was just chapter 1. So my plan is to do chapter 2 tomorrow and keep going. If you have any feedback about, like if you want me to speak slower, give more English help, less English help, go ahead and send me a message or comment here. Love to hear what you think. And also make sure to like my channel, subscribe. Like the video, subscribe to my channel, all that stuff, because it makes me feel really good. Cool. So I'm really excited that we read the first chapter of Emma today. Seems like she's not going to be as quarantined as us, thank God. And my goal is to keep reading this every day. And then at the end, we'll watch the movie together. All right. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you have any questions, go ahead and write them down. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.